Hello and welcome to another episode of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. As always, I'm your host, Kelby Bachman, and please give it up for the next guest on the show, Dr. Brandon Mason. So, Brandon is from Shenandoah, Iowa, and attended Lewis Central High School, where the 0-1 team he was on is arguably the best in state history. He would go on to place 4 times and win 3 state titles. Brandon went to Oklahoma State and was an All-American for the Cowboys, finishing 5th as a sophomore. He went on to secure his doctorate and is now a radiologist while still hanging around the wrestling program as their team doctor. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy Dr. Brandon Mason. In the heart of West Union, Iowa, lies a hidden gem in Euphoria Coffee. Owned by local residents Nicole and Shane Havenstreit, they source everything they can from local vendors. From hot and iced drinks, to savory breakfast burritos, to baked goods, to botany tea, and even homemade waffles, Euphoria Coffee is a place your entire family can enjoy. You can find more information at drinkeuphoriacoffee2go.com or visit their Facebook page. And we also have a special gift just for you. Next time you stop in, you can get a free baked good with a $20 purchase. Just mention the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. Euphoria Coffee. Our purpose is deeper than coffee.
Yeah, you're in my old stomping grounds, Council Bluffs, Omaha.
Yes, I am. How far away is Shenandoah?
Now 50 minutes, 55 minutes.
So did you commute then to Lewis Central?
I lived up there with Massey's parents.
So you moved in? Did you move? Okay, so your family lived in Shenandoah, and then you decided to basically open enroll to Lewis Central.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Was that tough?
No. I mean, I was all over the place for wrestling. I'd go out to the Olympic Training Center for a month at a time by myself, and just stuff you can't do nowadays. I was 16 years old. Like, all right, get in the car. You're all right. We'll see you in a month. And I'd just drive out to the Springs by myself at 16.
What the heck? And see, so again, I'm envisioning all right, you got your MapQuest directions printed out.
Yeah. There was I had a cell phone, but it was like the brick cell phone that the antenna would break off of every few months because the old cheap Verizon cell phone. It was MapQuest. Had the Randy Alley as a backup.
Did you ever get lost?
Not really. I just followed the directions, didn't really veer off too much. But no, I never got it. But I'd drive through Denver and everything else to get down to the Springs, and I just did it.
Jeez. Wow. Yeah, 16 as well. You just get your license. Did you get in any accidents or do anything?
No.
Speeding? No.
No, I was good. In Iowa, you get your permit at 14, and so my parents took advantage of that, and we'd drive down to Florida and stuff like that, and I'd be in the driver's seat, from 14 driving down there through Atlanta and stuff. So, now my oldest daughter's getting ready to turn 13, and she wants to practice driving, and it's she's it's a different era, essentially.
Yeah, it is. That's wild. 16 and you're just driving down I-80 West going to Denver to wrestle at the Olympic Training Center.
Yeah.
And it was just you, you didn't go with anybody else, like the Paulsons or?
No.
I mean, they probably were graduated by then, but.
They probably did graduate, but I was 16. They were 18, 19. They're freshmen at Iowa State. But not out there, checked into the dorms and did that all myself. And then, Lincoln McElravy was the developmental coach out there
Yeah.
in the Springs at the time. And then Slade did it the next year or something like that.
Jeez. Did you ever like in the moment think about like, man, this is kind of unusual. It's kind of crazy. What am I doing?
Honestly, no, not
I
at the
did.
at the time. At the time, you're just like, all right, this is kind of
Yeah.
cool. I'm driving
Yeah.
across the country by myself. But now you're looking back, and now that I've got kids, and I wouldn't let my kids do that. But
But it also shows, I guess, like on the other side, the how responsible of a young adult you were, huh?
well, yeah, I mean, there was a lot of kids. They would have those developmental camps, and a lot of those kids uh, would. I think they would mostly fly. They wouldn't drive out there, but they would fly in and then, get picked up from the airport by themselves. They wouldn't have adults with them. I remember being out there with, like Kyler Sanderson, Henry Cejudo,
Hmm.
those type of people. There was no adults. It was just we'd just all go out there to train in the summer for like a month.
Yeah. Did you realize the type of competition and the type of room you were in at that time? Like looking across, and now you're like, obviously you're naming the names now, and you're like, wow. But in the moment, I mean, you probably were toe to toe with them, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. I mean, it was just it was a situation. I don't know. It was just the circle that I ran in. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was
Right.
the people that I worked out with, the people that you would see on the national tournament stuff that you just talk to and whatnot. Now, I got, for example, I'm in Stillwater now, and I have people, like the coaching staff and the wrestlers over at the house all the time, and it's just a circle I run in now. I mean, I
Yeah.
have Wyatt Hendrickson. He's one of the most famous wrestlers right now in the world because of his upset. And he's over. Him and his wife come over all the time to use the pool and hang out and whatnot. I mean, his new wrestling shoe just dropped yesterday, I believe, and he came out to the house and did a bunch of promotional stuff out at the house, shooting fireworks off and stuff like that
Nice.
with Caden Henschel, who's I think he's
Yeah.
the biggest wrestling social media person in the
Right?
right now. And so he was over at the house too with his I think I don't know if it's his wife or his fiance, but they were all over a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Do they know Brandon Mason, the wrestler, or like how good you were? Or do they only know you as Dr. Brandon Mason?
Well, I mean, Wyatt, Caden probably doesn't know who I am, but I mean, he does now. But
Yeah.
Wyatt does. I mean, my maybe not like high school accolades, but like like the OSU wrestling poster is up in the wrestling room and stuff like that. Names on the All American wall for that type of stuff. So Wyatt knows who I am.
You know.
But yeah, he calls me Dr. Mason or Doc Mason. Or it becomes Brandon if we've had a few bourbons, but I don't mind. I prefer the personal and not the doctor title. So
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, okay. Speaking of bourbon, that's something I wanted to lead with was so you're coming out with a podcast. What's the name of the podcast? And
so it's kind of got a long title
yeah,
in regards to because it's wrestling dads. So it's like wrestling dads. I think it's going to be wrestling dads colon pin it forward, and so we're just going by pin it forward for the most part. But so I became friends with a guy named Fred Minnick, who is an OSU grad from the '90s. He went overseas in the military, came back, had some PTSD, so we got into taste therapy, and he's got books and stuff on it. But he became like the world-renowned taster for bourbon, very well known. I mean, his social media presence is everywhere, YouTube and everything. He does. I mean, people pay tons of money for him to come drink bourbon with them. But he's become a good friend of mine, and his son started wrestling a couple years ago in Kentucky, and there's not much wrestling mentors and stuff in Kentucky. So he asked me a bunch of questions about wrestling, and I would give him, recommendations. There's a lot of crazy wrestling parents, and as everyone's aware, and you want to raise your kids right, and I feel a lot of people don't know how to raise them right in regards to wrestling, because you get so emotionally vested, emotionally involved, that maybe someone just saying like, "Hey, this is what you should do," might, flip some switches. So we decided to do this podcast about, not being essentially too hard on your kids for the wrong reasons. The external pressure is something that's, it's killing uh, youth sports, especially wrestling, because it is one on one. And so that's what we're talking about. We're bringing on people along with us who are on both sides of the spectrum. So we recently did one with Coleman Scott, was my teammate at Oklahoma State, who, coached collegiate wrestling for a long time. Now he's got the farm wrestling camps in Stillwater, which are doing amazing. And so he sees it all. He's been and he's got a couple boys that wrestle too, and so he's on every side of the spectrum with that. And then, like, we brought on sports psychologists who work with the college wrestlers. Something he threw out that really I thought was interesting. I knew it was going to be high, but 70% of the people who quit sports as kids is because of the car ride home with their parents.
Wow.
Yeah, and so that number shocked me. I knew it would be high. I didn't know it would be that high. And so, external pressure is bad. There's enough pressure with wrestling, to compete. And if you have that external pressure, you kind of lose the excitement and the motivation to just be your best. And just getting out there and competing when you're worried about what your parents are going to think of you, or like how the whole week's going to go with your parents, is not healthy for anyone. And so that's what we're kind of talking about. We've had a couple of different people on. We've got some more people lined up. I'm sure I'll probably get Jordan Burroughs on at some point in time, because he's been a big proponent on that.
Yeah.
Kids wrestling tournaments and talking, about parents yelling at their kids and whatnot. And then he actually just came out on a post a few weeks ago, because he was down here in Stillwater at the farm doing a camp, about how if the Oklahoma State wrestling staff's not yelling at the kids in the wrestling room, why should you be yelling at your 8-year-old kid, type of thing. So he's good friends with Coleman, and Coleman's going to be a regular on our show just because we're good friends, and he really likes our idea. And so he's Jordan. And then I talked to a couple other people from different teams out on the East Coast who I know have been able to stay pretty involved in the wrestling community, who are willing to hop on the podcast. So they're about an hour-long podcast, 30 to an hour, and so far so good. We'll probably release it this fall, kind of going into the season a little bit. With Fred doing it with me, he has a very successful bourbon podcast. I mean, he has people like, if you're into country music, like Eric Church, Dierks Bentley.
Seriously?
Yeah, I mean, he has a Super Bowl show, or he has a Super Bowl party at the Super Bowl every year, that all these celebrities. I mean, he's very well known in the celebrity world. He's got his like podcast editor going over it, and like making everything just perfect on it to release sometime this fall. I mean, it's his. I'm helping him with it, but he's taking care of all the work with it. I'm just hopping on the shows with him, essentially, and using the wrestling in my wrestling connections.
Yeah. Wow. So there's a lot I want to talk about real quick, if I can kind of condense it as fast as I can. But why did you even come up with this? Like, what was even the thought of creating this into a podcast?
He came up with the thought. Fred did. So he would, he's like, well, how do I get this point across to my son? Man, I see a lot of parents at these wrestling tournaments just yelling at their kids and whatnot. And he would ask me for advice on how to get through to his son. Because I'm pretty observant, and situations that happened with me in the past, and then like seeing these collegiate wrestlers, the mental aspect of things, and talking to them and seeing it on the other side. I'm not an expert, but I kind of understand, situations. You can kind of see when they're kind of getting in their own head, and then you can see the parents who are causing external pressure on their kids or even their collegiate wrestlers. And so I'd just be talking to Fred, not about personal people, but about like how he should treat his son and talk to his son and kind of help motivate him and build him up to continue to grow as a wrestler. And he's like, we should do a podcast of this. And so it was kind of his mind child, I guess you could say. And we've been talking about it for about 6 to 8 months, and he's like, all right, let's do it. His kid came down to the Oklahoma State wrestling camp over the summer, a couple like 3 weeks ago, and so I lined up some people to hop on podcast with us, and we also did 3 or 4 of our, just the two of us, just talking about different issues, and we knocked out like eight episodes. And so we'll be recording more. I think he's going to be coming down more and more. He's going to come back down in a few months for some wrestling or Oklahoma State PR. He gets brought in all around the country for bourbon tastings. So like these big Fortune 500 companies will pay him a bunch of money to come in and drink bourbon with them and tell them what they should be tasting.
What a life, man. He goes around and drinks bourbon, gets paid to do it.
Oh yeah, he gets paid really good money. So. But no, he's a guy, lives out in Louisville. Recently got him hooked up with USA Wrestling. He was at the after party for Oklahoma State at the Nationals, and I hooked him up with the USA Wrestling people and like Rich Bender and stuff. And so World Team Trials was out in Louisville, and so he did like that's where he lives, and so he did like an after party after World Team Trials at one of the distilleries out there in Louisville for USA Wrestling. So they are all out at the Peerless Distillery having an after party. So
that's awesome. That's awesome to have a connection like that, to help just get involved in the sport.
Yeah.
And I bet you have seen some, with your role as like you still travel with the team. Are you like their physician or doctor in a sense?
Position that helps out. I kind of wear a bunch of different hats on these trips a little bit, or just I travel with the team, helping out medically when we go on a trip. I'm not the team doctor per se, where like I'm taking care of the guys on a day-to-day basis here in Stillwater, because I've got my job as a radiologist that I do. But if I can go on a trip with them, if they need stitches, if they need antibiotics, if they need, antiviral meds or something, I'm doing all that on the trip just so they don't have to go to a hospital. So I'm basically on the travel. So I was up at NCAAs with them this year, Big 12's the year before, Big 12's and NCAAs this year, Big 12's and NCAAs the year before. So I can just go on the major trips with them. Last year when Dayton popped his eye open against Vito, I had to like sew him up on the concrete floor after the match because it was just like flayed open, stuff like that. And but another reason I like to do it is because I get to be a little bit of a mentor to the guys, where they can, I'm just another person who can, talk to them about life, talk to them about wrestling. I'll even, when we go on these trips, I'll even hop on the mat and wrestle with the guys.
Really? Okay.
I'm still saying I can do that at least for a little bit. I usually do well for about the first half, and then they start getting me tired. But yeah, no, I'll hop on the mat with them from time to time if they need an extra person or something like that. And then I did it was kind of cool just being a mentor for the guys. Like this year, I don't know if you saw the interview, but when Wyatt won nationals, he had an interview afterwards about how I had mentioned that he should go to church, or like the guys, I sent it out as a group chat to the guys that were going to nationals about how they should go to church, because it was a really good message. We all go to life church for the most part, about David and Goliath and about how to get mentally ready. And he really took that message to heart when he listened to it, and he brought that up in his post match interview, which was really cool that I could, be a little bit of a help him out there with that type of a thing.
Yeah. When did that start to become a part of your of your life? Like now it seems like you've stepped into a mentor role of sorts. Like when have you
Well,
always had that piece of you or what?
I mean, my going into medicine, there's not many opportunities to give back to the sport. The sport's done so much for all of us,
Yeah.
and it's being in medicine. I'm not able to do it on a day-to-day basis where I'm, going to practice, coaching, but being when I can move back to Stillwater, Coach Smith, my coach John Smith, asked me to travel with the team, and so I started building these relationships with the guys at that point in time. And David took over. David's doing an amazing job, and he asked me to continue, traveling with the guys and being around. And so I built these relationships with the guys over the 5-6 years, and I still talk to the guys who were from then, and because there's not many for wrestling. It goes, hey, you're done with college, all right, go get a job, do your thing.
Yeah.
It's and the coaches try, but there's just so many people. So like, there's people who can be a little bit of mentors, just be there to talk, because it's hard. You go from wrestling to not wrestling anymore, and you sometimes it's like your identity's not there anymore. So it's people who are there to talk to you. And so I've built these relationships with the guys where I'll just text them and be like, hey, how's it going? And a lot of them are crushing it in life now, which is amazing to see. But just being there, talking to them, like, hey, what's going to happen after? Not everyone's a Wyatt Hendrickson who's gonna, win nationals and then continue to wrestle. Most people are, they wrestle that final match in college and they're done. That's
Hmm.
what we're gonna do now. So it's been really good for me, and I love being able to give back to the sport like this. There's wrestlers from different schools that wanted to get into medicine, and I've written letters of recommendation for them. I just actually spoke to one on the phone yesterday, Drew Matton. He wrestled at Michigan, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I wrote a letter of recommendation for him for medical school. He got into medical school, and he's in his fourth year now. And he just called me the other day to give me an update on how everything's going, and it was really nice to talk to him about that and that he's doing so well.
Yeah. That's awesome that you've kind of stepped into that role. Um, that begs the question, was somebody like that for you kind of as you were navigating?
Not really,
Okay.
really. That's kind of why. And I noticed that it's wrestling, and but there's so much of life which you don't even think about as a wrestler. You're like, oh, this is my life. This is you're so like this, but then you get done, you're like, oh my gosh, there's all of this other stuff. And so that's why I wanted to kind of, if I could, just be there for these guys. And the coaches do that too, but there's just so, I mean, you got 30 to 40 people every
Right.
single year. It's hard to do it for everyone. So it takes a village essentially. And I'm happy that I can be one of those people.
Yeah, and when you're wrestling and like when wrestling basically is your life, um, it's hard to do other extracurriculars like, internships,
Mhm.
work at the school newspaper, like do these other things that other kids are doing to get ahead of the game. So when they graduate, they have a leg up, and all you have, not all you have, but when you graduate and the only thing you can put on there is you wrestled.
Yeah. Yeah. I did
You
8 hours of shadowing. That was all I had for my medical school thing.
wow.
But I mean, there was just no time. I was like, and then
Right.
I was like, yeah, I woke up at 6, went did 2 hour workout, went to class, did like a 4 hour workout in the afternoon, and went home and studied and went to bed. Did that for 12 months a year.
8 hour, is that how uncommon is that? Like to have that?
Little,
Yeah.
very uncommon. I mean, most people do like a whole summer, multiple summers of shadowing and whatnot. I just didn't have time,
Yeah.
with everything else. If I wasn't competing or training for something, it was, hey, we've got so and so trying to make the world team. You got to be in here every day, whenever they want, type of a thing. Okay, coach, I'll be there.
Wow. So like what made you even decide, like were there moments where you were like, I don't think I'm gonna get in? Like
No,
I don't have anything to show.
well, I mean, you have a lot to show. I mean, the main thing is grades
Yeah,
and
true.
how you do on the MCAT. And then also think at least the school administrators or medical school administrators that I've talked to, they are going to preferentially take an athlete, in particular wrestlers, over someone else if they are the same, on paper. And I'm not
Mhm.
talking about, volunteering and stuff, but if their grades are the same, they're always going to pick the athlete because they did that stuff while doing a sport.
True.
And then
True.
also they know how to work hard. Like med school was hard, I guess you could say, but it wasn't like people were crying in medical school about, oh my gosh, it's so hard. I'm taking 24 hours. I'm like, yeah, you're taking 24 hours, but you're not cutting down to weight and doing 8 hours of wrestling. I mean, undergrad
Mhm.
was harder to keep my grades up than it was in medical school for me.
Yeah. Wow. How did you do it?
I just did it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there was one trip that I didn't almost break, but it was one of those where like, man, this sucks. It was we had dueled Nebraska on a Thursday night in Lincoln, and
First.
uh, I won my match. I think we won the duel, um, and we were driving back to Stillwater. We left at like 9 o'clock, 9:30, and we're driving back. Everyone else is asleep, and sitting there with the light on, studying organic chemistry because I have a test at 8 a.m. right when we get back, and I'm beat up a little bit as I am after any duel because I used my head and I'm just
Mhm.
sitting there. I'm like tired. I just want to sleep. I got food in my belly and I'm like, this sucks. But that was about the only moment where I was like, gosh, I just don't want to do this anymore.
How did you keep going? Because like I'm starting to think also about just having somebody there to talk to about this who
Mhm.
can relate. Like for me personally, relatability is pretty big, you know.
Right.
So like you had to probably be the only one grinding through like that. I mean, so who did you lean on? Who's your support throughout all that?
I mean, my wife. I mean, she wasn't doing it, but like I was able to talk to her about it. And you say that relatability. That's something that has been really beneficial for me working with the team as a doctor. Um,
Mhm.
a lot of the guys, and nothing against other doctors that are there because they're probably better than I am and stuff, but you mentioned relatability. These athletes, when I tell them that they can wrestle or that they're fine to wrestle, they trust me because I was in their position.
For
Like
sure.
I understand the sport, I understand what they're going through, and there's a level of trust there that you don't get by just being around them. It's the brotherhood of wrestling, and so it definitely helps them mentally for when I'm talking to them and saying, hey, you're going to be fine. Maybe stay out of these type of situations. And I can actually like talk about wrestling situations and be like, don't get in this situation because this is where
Mhm.
you're going to tweak your knee or something along those lines. Bill, I had that level of trust with them, which is pretty nice.
Yeah. Yeah. What even like started that passion for medicine and maybe radiology specifically?
I mean, when I was young, my parents chiropractors, and
Oh, okay.
they had an old X-ray machine in the back of their office, and so I actually wanted to go into radiology from like when I was really young, and so it was more. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew the end point, and
Mhm.
I knew I had to do all the steps to get there, and so I just kept on the path to do what I wanted to do, and I was fortunate enough to get into radiology and have a career in it because it's a pretty difficult residency
Yeah.
to get into. And then I was fortunate enough to go to one of the top, well, arguably the top fellowship in the world for my specialty, up in St. Louis at WashU, Mallinckrodt Institute of Radiology. And so I've been blessed to be able to be trained by some of the best. I've been trained by the best in wrestling, and now I've been trained by the best in field, which is, it's humbling, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Um, how did you not end up at Iowa? Have you ever heard of I don't know, the College of Medicine at Iowa is really awesome.
Yeah,
I mean, what's up?
I you know, it's
I'm
you
just
know,
giving you shit. It's just funny when you hear somebody like, I'm a doctor. Oh, did you go to Iowa? No. You're like, oh, and when you're from Iowa, you're like,
well, I mean, it was more,
what?
the whole situation there, and without getting too much into it, you know, as a there's so many, especially now with like the NIL stuff, there's so much people just wavering, going back and forth.
Yeah, sure.
There, when I was coming out, there, um, Oklahoma State was really good. Iowa was
Yes.
also really good. I mean, they were 1-2 in the country. You also had, Lehigh and stuff like that that were good, but you have to kind of go with your heart.
Yeah.
And it just felt like I needed a little change of scenery in regards to going out of state. I felt like the program was great. The wrestlers that they had at Oklahoma State at the time were on my way. It was Chris Pendleton, Tyrone Lewis, Zach Esposito. You had
Yeah.
Ahmed Lawal, you had Daniel Cormier, you had all these great people. And to be honest, there was a little bit of turmoil and uncertainty at the University of Iowa at that time because Jimmy Zaleski was the current coach, and
Mhm.
he had, I I'm going to say this, and I'm probably going to get crucified for it on here, but I don't appreciate the way he was treated up there at the University of Iowa. He had gotten second or third at nationals like 2 or 3 years in a row, and they were
Mhm.
talking about giving him not being the head coach anymore. Most other programs would, oh great, you're doing awesome, which
Mhm.
he was, and there was some uncertainty there that he was going to continue to be the coach moving forward, and it turns out he wasn't. He was let go a couple years later.
Yeah.
Nothing against Tom Brands; he's doing a great job there. But I mean, I've known Jimmy Zaleski since I was little because he's from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, where my dad
Yeah.
grew up, and so there was just some uncertainty there too about, um, and that definitely played a role.
Yeah. So uh my brother-in-law, his dad is from Cedar Rapids Prairie.
Mm-hmm.
He was on the same team, wrestling team as like Lenny and Jim Zaleski and Barry Davis. And he was not very appreciative of the way he was treated either.
Yeah,
So um, like you said, not to get into specifics, but it apparently was not yeah. So anyway, I completely understand. Um, and obviously it worked out for you,
yeah,
but um, I just thought like if you knew you were going into medicine, like obviously like I was just wondering how the University of Iowa wasn't like the easy like that would have probably been the easy
it,
option,
that
you
would have
know?
been the option, and then another easy option would have honestly been Cornell up in Ithaca,
Yeah.
because they, they're like one of the top medical schools in the country, and not saying I would have been guaranteed a spot in, but if I would have made the grades to get into medical school at Cornell, I probably would have had a spot up there. There is a medical school associated with Oklahoma State, but it's not in Stillwater. So I had to move to Tulsa for medical school.
Really?
Yeah. So I was over in Tulsa for like 9 years. Had to leave Stillwater, and then after Tulsa, I went to St. Louis for a year for my fellowship. But yeah, it wasn't. It just felt right,
Yeah.
and I was fortunate. Met my wife my first year of in the dorms. She ran track and cross country there, and She's from Kansas, and we actually celebrated our 19th anniversary.
Wow, really?
Uh,
19?
19, one from 20 last week, 2 weeks ago. So yeah,
Nice. Congratulations.
yeah.
Sorry, I'm just like, I'm kind of blown away. I'm like, he's 19. Wow.
We got married at
Are
20.
we old?
We got married at 20 years old. Yeah, so I'm
No
39.
kidding.
Yeah,
I guess when you know, huh?
yeah, yeah. So
Dang, so you were trying to get into med school, taking organic chemistry and planning a wedding at the same time and wrestling.
married at that point in time. But yeah,
Lord, jeez.
yeah.
Um,
So that's another thing. Like, these wrestlers who are, there's, Wyatt Hendrickson just got married. There's been
yeah.
a couple wrestlers who have gotten married right after or during college, and we've had them over, them and their fiance, wife, and we've talked to them, both me and my wife, about just marriage and stuff like that. We were fortunate enough to have one of the athletic directors at Oklahoma State, who former wrestler at Iowa State, do like marriage counseling and mentor us and stuff like that. Dave Martin, he wrestled for Iowa State back in the
Wow.
late '60s, early '70s. He was on the team with Gable and stuff like that, but he was a two-time national champ for Iowa State. And he was the assistant athletic director here at Oklahoma State. So we, had them as mentors, and they still live here, and I see them from time to time. But yeah, he married us and everything else. So
Nice. Yeah, like so I'm here and I've gotten a little close with some of the guys at the University of Nebraska and you look at their team and a few years ago anyway, there were a lot of them who were married or engaged or about to be like,
yeah,
you know, so it's kind of interesting how I feel like there's a lot more of that, and maybe there was some back in the day too, but yeah, there's a lot of college wrestlers at least that are engaged or married.
yeah,
It's not totally uncommon.
yeah.
So I know we're kind of like moving backwards, but I read, you did the thing with the pin doctors.
Oh
And one
yeah.
of the things, yeah, one of the things I read was like you didn't do any other sports.
No, I didn't. I was, and
Did
there's,
you even try? Like, did you even at any point did you do any other sport?
I don't think I could. I mean, I'd probably be like backup JV at any other sport. I mean, I could probably get on a football field and just play defense, but yeah, no, I'm basketball, absolutely not. I'm awful. I mean, I don't know what other sport. My daughters play soccer. I I can still beat them at soccer, but barely.
Hey.
My oldest she's doing really well. She's traveling all over the country for soccer.
Oh,
It's kind of a cool thing, we're in a college town that's got a pretty good women's soccer team, so she's been working out with some of the college girls, and Roman Bravo Young moves to Stillwater, training here. Great human, great wrestler. And I was helping him out with a few things, and he's like, "Hey, my girlfriend, which is now his fiance, plays soccer. She could give your daughter lessons." And
hey.
I'm just like, okay, well, in my head, I'm thinking, well, she's already doing lessons with college girls. So, and
Yep.
I'm like, oh yeah, so she plays. He goes, yeah, she plays up in Kansas City for the Current, which is the professional soccer team.
Hmm.
And so, sure enough, next time she was in town, she reached out, and my daughter's been doing, privates with his professional soccer fiance. I've got a soccer goal in our front yard, like we got pretty good size, and so they're just doing soccer lessons out there. And not only that, but they're texting back and forth. So she's got a mentor who's a professional player now, which is amazing.
Wow.
Cool. Yeah.
When did they get into that? Or when did I guess your
I
oldest start getting into that?
So they all play for the most part, but right from the get go, and For me, it's easy being a soccer parent because I don't know anything about the sport at all. I mean, I'm learning now, but so I can't get onto her for anything technique wise or anything like that. It's easy because I can just leave it up to the coaches. The only thing I've ever gotten onto her about, and I think this is the one thing parents and coaches, well, especially parents, should get onto their kids about, even we're talking about on the podcast with us, is effort. You know,
Yeah.
you can see effort, and I don't care if you win, lose, or what, but you need to hustle, you need to play hard, you need to wrestle hard. And so that's the only time I've ever gotten onto her is when there's, and not recently, recently she's just, the last few years, she's been crushing it. But like 3, 4 years ago, there was a time when we
Mhm.
went down to, drove all the way down to Houston, which was like an 8 hour drive, and she played a game and didn't. She was like not hustling and like kind of lackadaisical. And I had a little discussion with her about that. I'm like, I
Mhm.
don't care how you do. You can get beat 12-0, but I want to see you hustling, running. You know, I need effort. You know, and
Mhm.
everything in life you have to put in effort. And sports is, you know, and you don't think about this when you're competing and an athlete is there's so much of life after sports. You know,
Yeah.
most people are done wrestling or competing collegiately when they're 22, 23 years old. You're going to live to 70, 80, maybe even like 180 with the new technology. But you know the character you learn in athletics and in sports, especially wrestling, should help you for the rest of your life. And one of those is effort. You know, showing up, putting in the effort, the self discipline and stuff like that that you learn is very very important for the rest of your life. And it's definitely helped me, you know, in my career and my what I do now.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, I before you even said it, I thought, I'm like, okay, yeah, I think I know where he's going because that's a very, that is something that if you're talking to a parent, that's something that like you're saying, I don't know much about the sport. I don't know anything really. I can't tell you how to kick a soccer ball, but I can tell you that how to hustle and that, like that's a very baseline thing that like you're saying in life and just in everything, that is something that you can push.
You see these parents deviate into, well, I can't believe you lost that game. I can't believe you
Right.
lost that match. Like that. That's bad.
Yeah.
Like, who cares? And that's something like that's how it's all started with Freddie. Is like it's like, man, he wrestled hard, but he got beat by the. I'm like, yeah, but he wrestled hard. You know,
Hmm.
if you continue to wrestle hard and you know love the sport, you're gonna get better if you put in the time. I mean,
Yeah.
people like Jordan Burroughs and stuff, they weren't successful until pretty much college.
Yeah.
But he loved the sport. He worked, wrestled hard, and he just continued to grow. And now he's one of the greatest of all time. And just because he continued that love, continued that work ethic, and plus he's extremely gifted. I mean, there's not many people who can shoot a double from 12 feet away and the mat. But I mean, you know, it's a combination of things, but effort is definitely one of them.
Yeah, I remember, um, I don't know where I heard this from, but if you're a parent and your child just gets done with a game, I heard that the first thing that you should ask them is if they had fun. Or did you, like, don't ask them or don't, I guess the thought was don't ask them how they did. Because then that basically the first thing you're doing is asking them what the result was. Hey, did you win? If
Mm-hmm.
that's like the first thing you ask your kid after a game, like that kind of sets the tone
I
for
mean,
everything else.
me and my daughters walk over when they're playing soccer to the parents, and I always, don't matter if they win, lose, how they played, I give them a hug and give them a kiss on top of the head.
Right. Yep.
When my youngest daughter wrestles, and she actually won state this year in girls wrestling in Oklahoma. And you know, I always, when she comes over, I shake her hand and I put my arm around her.
Mhm.
No, win or lose, it don't matter. And you know, if you watch the college coaches here that are here now, Dave and Jimmy and the rest of the staff, don't matter how the guy does, when they walk over after the match, they shake their hand, they let them go do their thing. Even if they lost, they'll talk to them later, you know. But you don't want that right off the bat, you know, the beat down.
Mhm.
I think it's really good. It's a great environment they've got going on and a culture they've got here down in Oklahoma State. And I know if I was coming out of high school, it's where I'd want to wrestle. And you actually got a blue chipper from Iowa coming down here next year who be a freaking stud. He's
Yeah.
already a stud, but you put 20, 30 pounds on him, he could be the best heavyweight ever in college wrestling if he can put on a little bit of weight, I think.
It's funny that you say you want to put more weight on him because he already looks, and I'm sure, like, yes, if he wrestles like a Wyatt Hendrickson, you can tell the size difference. But I remember when he was in high school, like when he was like a freshman, I think he had just won Tulsa or something. Um, and I remember kind of just looking at him going, man, he just looks different. Like he was tall, he was lean, but like you could tell he could put on his frame, and I was like, man, I don't know, he just looks like he's gonna be something.
I mean, he's projecting to be a heavyweight,
Yeah.
and he needs to be probably 245, 250,
Yep.
around there. And I think he's probably walking around at about 225 right now. And
Yep.
even Wyatt, when he first got down here from Air Force, he was probably 230. And I talked to him after the summer when I first started talking about him, like, man, you put on a little bit of weight. And not like it's a huge weight difference. Like even like Cooter, like some of the people that beat Cooter this year for Iowa, he was just smaller, way smaller than him. And so Wyatt put on about 30 pounds, um, you know, from Air Force to Oklahoma State, and it definitely helps. And so if Drayshawn's wrestling heavyweight, he needs to be in that 45 to 50 range. But he is built and he is talented. That class that Oklahoma State got with him and Jax is it's going to be something. And the Rainies also, it's going to be something special.
I know, right?
Special. And then the guys they got this year with D Lockett and Robideau and Sergio Vega. I mean, they've got a bunch of really good people coming in that it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, it was part of the reason Hendrickson wasn't able to get as big because he was in the Air Force and flying. I didn't know if that had played a role in it.
I think so. I think it was just they put a real emphasis, not real emphasis, but just they did a lot of extra work in the gym and stuff right now. I mean, we've got a really good strength coach here in Nick Montoni. Nick works and does a lot of good stuff with them, and I think that definitely helped too.
Yeah. It's also kind of funny you just mentioned like next year's class, okay, with like Ross and the Rainey twins and Forrest. You kind of forget that they have Lockett and Sergio Vega coming in. Like those guys are
Don't sleep on Landon Robideau.
Yeah, like those are studs.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, next year, look at that class. And you're like, well, what about this class?
Yeah, they're setting it up really, really nice. And then getting Swiderski down here, he's got a couple of years at 49. And then Zach Ryder coming in from Penn State, transferring in. And Facundo. I mean, you've got some really good wrestlers who have a couple of years left that are joining the team. And not only are they good wrestlers, but all of them are really good people, which is very important. So I've known Jax for a long time just because he's he would, back when he was a kid and stuff, he'd come down here and train. We got one of the best developmental coaches in the world down here in Stillwater, and Zoe. And he's been coaching some of these guys since they were 7 years old with D, and then he's been coaching Jax for a long time too. Jax would come in and Zoe's the one who's in their corner at the World Championships and stuff. Zoe's from France, and he's been over here for about the same time as me, maybe 6-7 years back in Stillwater, and he's just become instrumental not only in this area but USA Wrestling. He was a world team member for France. Came over here to train with Dayton like 7 years ago and just loved it. And now he's married and he's just doing amazing things here in Stillwater.
Dang. Landon Robideau. Okay.
from Minnesota.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to remember that name. You said
He's
don't sleep on him. Okay, I
he's
won't.
he's a 157 pounder, uh, right around there. He at the U20s or U23s, no U20s, he beat Melvin Miller, and he got beat in the finals by PJ Duke. I mean Duke just beat Yanni, but Landon gave him tough matches. And Landon's a tough kid. So
Nice.
I mean, I think he was top 10 overall, along with D and Sergio.
Mhm.
So we'll see how the red shirts and everything else play out with everyone.
Yeah,
Who's
you got to
not.
share the wealth, man.
Yeah.
Come
Well, I mean, I honestly think, and this is no knock against them, is people are, especially these kids, are getting a little bit of Penn State fatigue. The whole country is, just because they've been so dominant for so long. And now you've got a new coach who's just an amazing wrestler, and he's doing an amazing job as coach. Brought in a great coaching staff, was able to steal Roper from you and I, and
Yeah, right. I don't know how he pulled that off.
Roper's amazing.
Mhm.
Great person, great coach, and then people want to come wrestle down here. It's a hot new place to wrestle, and so it's been going really well.
I think he's really personable too,
Yeah,
you know. I mean, that helps, you
yeah,
know, when he can go in and talk to these kids. Because I mean, when you think about it, when we were growing up, and even you're just a couple years older than me, but like times have changed, going in and talking to the kids nowadays is different, than going and talking to us when we were kids,
yeah. And it's all about like social media and stuff now. It's
Right.
crazy. I mean, David will he's on vacation right now, and this is just an example. He posts something on social media about his vacation, uh, on his feed on Instagram, and it's been up for like 12 minutes, and he's already got like 1,000 and some likes. It's just he's got that social media presence, and then
Mhm.
we have UFC fighters coming in and training down here, or all this other stuff that these kids see, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's awesome! I want to be a part of that. I want to do that." And it's such a huge thing. And then you get the snowball effect when you get people like Jax and Drayshawn and D and Sergio and Landon all coming in, and the Rainies now. The Rainies are the most recent. Come in, everyone they just want to be a part of it. It's an exciting time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you don't know what you got. Bo Bassett out there, who's I don't know where he's going to go. We'll see.
Hmm.
That's kind of a there's a lot of drama going on in the wrestling world right now, and that's a small part of it. There's so much other stuff going on right now. It's crazy.
Well, and then when you also start to see success, like not only the success that Oklahoma State had this year, but like I don't want to say the shocking, the shock factor, because to you guys it probably wasn't as shocking, but like when Dean Hamady beats Keegan O'Toole, you know, and when Wyatt Henderson beats Gable Steveson, you're like, wow, okay. Like when you add that onto everything else, like,
I mean, so like the NCAA tournament, Penn State won, and Penn State,
yeah,
I think they set the record for points. If they didn't set the record for points, they were right up there. But I think they set the record for points. And guess what? Tournament's over. We're all standing around. No one's talking about Penn State.
no,
Not one person. They set this team record, and no one's
10
talking about it.
All-Americans, yeah,
They're talking about Oklahoma State and the trajectory.
yeah,
And that was because you had people like DJ, who not only did he beat Keegan O'Toole, Keegan O'Toole, stud wrestler, Keegan's a great human being, wrestling without an ACL for the whole year essentially. But not only did he beat him, he beat Levi Haynes,
right,
who's
in the
a freaking
semis.
stud, two national champions to become, and he didn't just beat them; he beat them both in dominant fashion. I mean, it wasn't like majors, but I mean, he controlled both matches. And then you have Wyatt, who doesn't only beat Gable in the finals, but he beat Greg Kirkville in the semis, who was
Yeah,
a national champ, who had always beat him also. I mean, you have these guys who beat people who are just, and then you have people like Spratley, who, he
Oh,
he ended
right.
up
Duh.
he ended up right below, he ended up second, which great person. He works so hard. He's such a good kid, and he'll be back. But you have people like that who are just, it's putting Oklahoma State back up there in the forefront where people want to come here and wrestle.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, because it seemed like there was a little bit of it kind of like they it got reinvigorated a little bit, you
Yeah,
know.
and it's I hate the way wrestling is in regards to not the wrestling, the NIL
Yeah.
stuff, and it's hard. It's a different world that you have to be willing to do. And these coaches who have been around from before the NIL, it's really hard to change. And it's not just wrestling. People like Nick Saban who retired, and the reason he retired is because of the NIL stuff. It's just awful. You get these. There's not much college loyalty now. It's all like, where can I get the best deal? Where can
Yeah.
granted, there's other places that are offering way more money than other places, and the kids are going to go. But it's still about the money a little bit. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, there's a money factor, which I think is awful. I mean, I think there should be a cap on everyone of the max amount you can give someone, and not the amount that was thrown around that Bassett was going to get at Iowa was just insane, ridiculous. I mean,
Right.
that's more than 99.9% of Americans will make in a year hardworking, and this you're often giving a 17-year-old kid that. I think that's stupid. And that's just wrestling. Football's way worse.
Yeah.
And so I think it's awful. I don't know how you get the cat back in the bag at this point in time, but I think it's awful for college sports. It's like almost they're becoming professionals when they're 16 years old in high school, because that's when they're signing these things.
Right. Yeah. And it kind of it's life-changing money, and some of these people, some of these kids, like, how do you say no to that?
It's hard to, but I'm not saying you go back to where there's no type of financial incentives, but I think you need to cap it at a certain amount. There, can't just be wide open. I think they're trying to do that with the profit sharing type thing, where like
Right.
you get this much type of a thing, you can do it directly from. But still, it's too much money. I think you're still going to have those treating these people like professional athletes, and also I think you need, if you're paying them something, you need a contract from them that they're going to
Right.
stick to their guns, not go in the portal every year. You know what I mean? I mean, you got these kids who have been wrestling for they've wrestled in two national tournaments, and they're on their fourth college team.
Yeah.
It's stupid. I,
Yeah.
I hate it for the sport. I hate it for the sport. I hate it. And the people I hate it, and I'm saying this being an Oklahoma State fan, an alumni helping out with the team, is the small schools. I absolutely hate it for.
Yeah.
And for example, one of my good friends is Obi Blanc, and he's the coach at North Dakota State.
Yeah.
He develops these kids. They become an All American. What happens? North Dakota State doesn't have the money to pay them.
Right.
It's like, I'm going to throw out Iowa. I'm not going to target them, but he had two kids from his club who are amazing wrestlers. They were amazing wrestlers when they went there.
Mhm.
He couldn't keep them there. What
Right.
they offered, and you can't fault the kid for that, but it's just sad because he, helps these kids succeed, and then they go, and I don't fault him for it, but I fault the opportunity.
Right. There you go.
Like Caliendo's an amazing wrestler, but he was at North Dakota State, and he was an All American at North Dakota.
Yeah.
Franek was also an All American at North Dakota State who went to Iowa. That's why I threw Iowa out there, because there was two of them there. But he's had other All Americans who have bounced after they've had a good year, and it's not just them; it's multiple schools, these smaller schools that can't. Wyoming's had multiple that have left, like as soon as they become, Buchanan's another one, but he
Yeah.
didn't go. He went to OU first, and then went to. But I mean, it's crazy how much they're bouncing around.
Yeah, there's two things I'll say on that. The first one is my impression of the NIL at first was like, all right, Brandon Mason, you want to make a t-shirt with your face and a logo or something on it, and a catchphrase or whatever, and you sell it, you can make the money.
Sure.
Okay. Like that's what I thought it was going to be because like before that was a no-no. You couldn't do that. Okay.
Right.
Um, so that's what I thought it was going to generally be. Like you can sell your own you can make money off your name, image, and likeness. Like if you're a big TikTok star, you can make money, things like that.
Right.
Um, but the other thing is, yeah, I hate that like almost after the NCAA tournament, you look across the All-Americans or people who had really good tournaments, and you're like, what school do they go to?
Hmm.
And if they go to a smaller school, you're like, well, where are they gonna go
Right.
next? Like it's almost like automatic when you kind of see that. You're like, okay, he's leaving.
Yeah.
And that sucks. That's just yeah, that sucks. It's a deflating feeling.
Because as those coaches, those head coaches, I mean, one, you're putting all this time and all that effort into them for a year, and yeah, they get success, they get some notoriety for the school, but you're hoping that they will continue with you, and someone like for Obi, someone like Caliendo, who he was only there for a year. I mean, 2 years, I think he redshirted and then wrestled his first year, but we were all sitting there and be like, this kid's good. He's
Yeah,
really good, Obi. I'm like, you might have a national champion with this kid. I mean, he's good. And yeah, you want, especially the smaller schools, you want your first national champion. You want your first, and so you have those thoughts in your head, and then they're like, oh hey, I got offered X number of dollars to go to this other school. I can't not take it. You
right,
can't get mad at the kid about that, but it's just deflating for them, because they dream of like, oh, I'm going to be up on the stage coaching you when you win your national tournament. So
right.
stuff like that. So,
Yeah, and it's like I believed in you and no one else did.
hmm.
I believe like
I
not that
mean,
like I believed in you first, but like kind of like I took the chance on you.
well, I mean, Caliendo was, I'm using him just because I was talking about Obi, but
Mhm.
he was a big recruit out of Illinois, and it's not like he's from North Dakota, but he went up there. I think it was just the situation with Frantic and stuff, going up there to train, and they just. But yeah. I mean, some of them are. Some of these kids who become really really good, they didn't have the recruiting in a high school, but that's honestly it's pretty few and far between now because these kids are getting wrestling a lot more younger and wrestling in national tournaments. All of them are. I mean, it's crazy to see the amount of high schoolers that are wrestling in not only the U20, U23s, but also the senior. I mean,
Yeah,
there's a possibility to have two high school. Well, Duke's not technically in high school anymore, but he hasn't started college yet. If
right.
Jackson beats Vito at their wrestle off, you can get two high school kids on the world team. It's crazy. It's insane. You know, it's back in my time. I mean, you think about the top high school kids, and not a chance they could have wrestled and been successful against who was the world team members at the time.
Was that even I was gonna ask like that now that you're mentioning that, I mean, was that even on your radar? Like to make a world team
It was for a while there. Yeah.
when you
Um,
were that age? Were you thinking about that?
when I was in high school, yeah,
Yeah.
I was.
Mhm.
It's yeah, I had those dreams and I still think
Mhm.
about it. But obviously I'm not planning on doing any senior,
Yeah.
but as much as I love the sport, uh, but yeah, it was on my mind back in like middle school, high school, and stuff.
Yeah, I guess I was just wondering because that, like you're saying now, we're hearing these guys making world teams and going to U23s and senior level and even competing in there, and I'm like, man, I'm trying to think back in the early 2000s, like were high schoolers even doing that? You know,
No, I don't know.
like were they even competing at those? Like
At those levels, not. I mean,
I
they
didn't
had
think
like
so.
the cadet junior worlds,
Yeah,
S4 worlds, but they didn't like. I think the last person who was in high school to make a world team or anything like that would have been like It was Carr. It wasn't Nate Carr. It was his brother. I can't remember his name, but it was back in the 70s, I think. I think it's been that long since there was someone who was like legitimately in high school that made a world team.
Yeah. Wow. I remember like I remember when Zahudo, but he wasn't quite in high school. I don't know. Yeah.
He was 2 years out of high school.
Okay.
He didn't go to college. He just went
That's
out
what,
to the
yeah.
training center and started training.
Yeah. So it's just, yeah, it's different. Um,
Jimmy
before
Jimmy
Jimmy
Carr. I think it
Jimmy
was
Carr.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he competed in the 1972 Olympics as a high school junior.
Does it say how he did?
I don't think he placed.
Oh, okay.
But still, it's freaking impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I before we run out of time here, I can't believe it's taken us this long to talk real quick about Lewis Central. Because I grew up, I remember those teams, um, with you and the Paulsons and those guys. Did you realize like at the time like how good your team was and like how good that room was?
So, my freshman year, we knew we had something special with our team and who we had there, and we actually on our wall in our wrestling room, we put up the score, the amount of team points. That was the record at the time in Iowa, and we had that up on the wall all year. So because we knew we had a shot at beating that, and I think we kind of destroyed it at the end, which has now been broken. They've added a few weight classes since then, and not that, but I mean Southeast Polks have had some freaking stud classes or stud years at national or at the state tournament where they've scored a ton of points. Had pretty much everyone place. Top four, top five. But we knew, and it was. I think the most special thing about that my first year there, my freshman year, was uh, our core, not the core group, but the guys who ended up winning state. We were all like back to back to back to back to back again,
Right.
and which made it really freaking cool because I was smack dab right in the middle of it, and so
Hmm.
I was warming up for my match in the finals, and I'm watching Gabe Rosterman win his
Hmm.
first state title. I'm watching Chad Davis win his third state title, and then I'm up to win my first state title. And then after my match, I'm done, and I literally sat there on the mat, with all the photographers, and I watched Trent win his. Uh, uh, Trent win his, Travis win his, and then there was I think Galloway from Iowa City High won, and then Blake Anderson won his title. And so it is just cool to be right there with all of us, essentially boom boom boom. And but no, we knew we had, and we had other guys who wrestled lights out that tournament to
Yeah.
play, and that was a very fun year. I also had a lot of fun my senior year when we won when we weren't supposed to. I think I was the only state champion that year, but a lot of the guys wrestled really hard. We had Jimmy Waters got second that year, and then he ended up winning three titles after that. But no, I enjoyed my time at Lewis Central wrestling there, and yeah, we knew we had a good team that first year. The opportunity to set some records.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. Well, first off about that 01 team, man, those practices must have been just did like especially as a freshman, did you kind of know those guys before you got in there?
So I wrestled middle school up in Lewis Central also in my eighth
Okay.
grade, and so I would go wrestle with middle school, but I'd go up to the high school practices, and so I'd practice with them. And so I mean, and yeah, I wasn't from Lewis Central. I was originally from Shenandoah, but
Hmm.
I grew up in the Council Bluffs Panthers program. I mean, since I was 7 years old, I was going to practice with all those guys. So I was on teams with every single one of them since I was, going to Tulsa Nationals. I mean, Tulsa Nationals, my first year at Tulsa Nationals was 6 and under. And
6 and under.
yeah, and won Tulsa that year. And the Council Bluffs Panthers, we actually won the team title that year.
Oh, okay.
David Kilgard on the team, the Paulsons, Ben Moss, Gabe Roshman. We were all on that team together.
Yeah.
So I grew up wrestling with all those people. Thomas Gilman, who was down at Oklahoma State last year, back up at Penn State now. He's a CB Panther. He went to Scott, but he's Council Bluffs Panther.
Dang. Okay. So yeah, because you were the underclassmen on that team. You were the freshmen and the Paulsons were juniors. Chap Davis. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, so did you just take your lumps or did you kind of hang in there at times?
No, I mean, we really don't talk about practices, but I mean, it was a battle. I definitely not as physically strong as other people know as a freshman. But yeah, it was definitely a good day when you could get a takedown or get a couple takedowns and stuff like that. I mean, it wasn't just them. I mean, I had, Chad Davis was right below me, and he was a three-time state champ, wrestled at Northern Iowa. You go up right above the Paulson, you had Blake Anderson and stuff who wrestled at Iowa. Aaron Smith, who was full-time state place winner. It was just up and down the lineup. Nick Hayes, it was up and down the lineup, and even the people who weren't starting were pretty tough wrestlers. We had that lineup there in the middle that was just crazy. I mean, our duel with Scott that year was insane. I think we had like 6,000 people at a high school duel. Because we were ranked second in the country and they were like third or fourth in the country.
Wow.
And, it was a fun year. It definitely was.
Well, I want to real quick fast forward to 2004 because that was another fun year for you because not only were you a senior, you got your third state title, you were the upperclassman, you were the leader, but like you said, you won the traditional when people probably thought it was a foregone conclusion that it was going to be Iowa City West.
Yeah, we had some turmoil without getting into too much detail with that team where, we had a really good team, kind of a younger team, and we actually had a really pretty good wrestler who was on the team who wasn't making the right decisions. And we, as a team and the coach, we had a meeting, I think it was like 3-4 weeks before the state tournament. And this kid would have been a state placer for us.
Mm-hmm.
He was good, and we made the decision to kick him off the team.
Wow.
And not saying doing that caused us to win the state tournament, but it definitely made a more cohesive group. And we went into the state tournament all on the same page. And we had people, the Stamp brothers both weren't supposed to place. I don't think neither one of them was ranked top 8, and they both placed top 5. You had Barrick Davis, Tobin Ward, I think both placed top 4. Jeff Rao, all these people who, everyone besides me outperformed their seed, but by a lot. And so it was amazing to see, as the underdog to win that. We knew when we went to the state duels we weren't gonna. I mean, we just didn't have the team like we had my first year. Mm-hmm. But it was really cool to win the traditional state team title that year.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. Jeff Rao, 3rd. Barack Davis, 3rd. Tobin Ward, 3rd.
Yeah.
Luke Stamp, 5th.
Yeah.
So
Mike Stamp was right there too, wasn't he?
4th.
Yeah.
Who? Jimmy
got 2nd at 45, I think, or something.
Yeah, he probably would have won it if he wasn't playing baseball so much.
Well, so Jimmy, this is a story about Jimmy. Um, I don't think he'll mind me telling this. Um, so I'm down here at Oklahoma State, and Jimmy's getting recruited heavily for both wrestling and baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Outstanding baseball player, outstanding wrestler, three-time state champ. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame here in the next few years for Hall. I just got inducted this year, which was an honor. But anyways, he calls me, and I'm not down here, and he goes, "Hey Brandon, I need your opinion. I'm getting recruited for both baseball and wrestling. What do you think I should do?" And I go, "Jimmy, if you're even asking that question, go play baseball."
Wow. Yeah.
Because
True.
if you're not totally committed to wrestling and know that's what you want to do, you'll have a lot more fun in college and more time for things doing the other thing. I mean, wrestling in college can eat you alive if you're not mentally prepared for it. And so, and he had a great baseball career at Kansas. Met his wife, who was a soccer player, and they've got a couple kids now and live in Kansas City now. But he's been helping with Omaha Scott for the past like 5 years.
Yeah, isn't that funny how that works? Now he was competing against him and now he's coaching him. But um yeah, that is true. Like especially at a caliber that he wanted to be at for wrestling, like if you're not all in, like you said, it'll eat you up, man. And that's what I've heard. Like obviously that wasn't my experience because I wasn't at that level, but I mean wrestling is just a different animal when you're in there getting your butt kicked by kids who, who eat, sleep, and breathe it and are just passionate about it. If you're not right there with them, especially like at a program, if he was going to Oklahoma State, it's just, mm,
Yeah. And yeah, you see, and I think it's really cool. And some of the coolest stories that I've seen, you got someone like Chance Marsteller who, he was going down a path one way,
yep,
had some stuff happen to him where it kind of flipped a switch, and he gets a different change of scenery, and now his story is just amazing. But like when he was down here at Oklahoma State, he was not having a good time, was not being successful and stuff, and then left, got in some trouble, went to Lock Haven. I think it was Lock Haven, and was a couple-time All-American, and then he beats Jordan Burroughs to make the world team recently. And his story, if you're a kid who is doing any type of thing that's a addiction, alcohol, pills, and stuff, his story is someone to follow because he is a great human being, a great mentor to kids now, great husband, and he's an example of how you can change things around. It's great to see with him.
yeah, yeah. Um, I think did Flo do something on him?
They did a docu series on him, but I've been fortunate enough to not only travel with Oklahoma State, but I travel with USA Wrestling too, and so I've been on a couple trips with him where we've had some time to sit down and talk, and uh, great person.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the other thing of like that's a great story. And but if I shift it to you for a second here, um, your story is great because like the balance it takes to not only get good grades and take organic chemistry while you're also being, a high level athlete, all American wrestler, like that is something you can mentor and show kids as well. Like that's a story that can be told too. You know what I mean? That like
Sure.
you can do both. You
Yeah.
can succeed and go and be high level in life and do something very successful while also being an athlete. Some people kind of think they have to choose.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that.
You're welcome. Yeah. I mean, I don't have too many doctors on here, so
Yeah. No, I mean, not everyone has to be a doctor. Everyone's got to do their own thing. I think the most important thing is that whatever you decide to do, well, first decide to do something, and then second, do what you're going to do with your to the best of your abilities.
Mhm.
After, as I said earlier with my kids, put in the effort, put in the time, put in the work, be determined, and continue that through life. And you don't have to be a doctor. You don't have to. One of my best friends from Oklahoma State, his name's Newly McSpadden. Uh, he was a varsity. He wrestled varsity for 3 years for Oklahoma State. He's a drug enforcement officer, SWAT, now, and he is not only does he do that, but he also like trains a lot of the officers throughout the whole state of Oklahoma and stuff. And he's just crushing his job. I mean, he's goes in, works hard every day. It takes a village, and everyone will find their niche in life. You just have to put in the work.
Yeah. Yeah, and also like you have to be willing to maybe go find that niche,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know. Um, Luckily you kind of found yours at a young age, but like if we sometimes get so wrapped up in our sport, we just forget to do anything else. Like when you ask like a high level athlete, like, what else do you like to do? And they're like, they kind of look at you like, what do you mean? Like, I do my sport. And you're like, no, like, so I guess let me ask you that. What did you do to take a break from your stressful coursework and wrestling and all that stuff?
I, I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. I mean, so I was married, and so like I just go hang out with my wife.
Yeah.
We go.
Hmm.
We had dogs, or actually I have like wolf dogs. So I have hybrids. But
Wolf dogs.
yeah, yeah, I got like high high blood wolf dogs, so like uh, Malamute and timber wolf. So like 75 to 88% timber wolf with a little bit of Malamute in them. But we would go. I just to get away. We'd go out to like cross country course or something like that, and just take the dogs out and walk and just talk and just there's so much mental stimulation with and like people chirping and stuff. You just got to get away. And a lot of people nowadays, it's, hey, I'm just going to get on my video games or something like that. But to me, it was just different. It was a different era where like cell phones weren't a thing. And I'd just get away and go out there, and we'd go out there for a couple hours and just let the dogs run, and we'd walk and stuff like that.
Yeah. And hey, that it it didn't have to like it didn't have to be like your answer didn't have to be like I did something like that's perfect. That just something to recenter yourself if that's what it takes is like I just go out and I just walk and just
It was
listen
more
to like,
kind of nature for me.
yeah.
And they kick up bobcats and deer and stuff, and you just watch them running around and just just getting out in fresh air for me.
Yeah. How did you also balance everything? Like that's a good point in that. Like, okay, now you're a husband. Okay, you're a husband, you're an athlete, you're going to school to, you have these aspirations to be a doctor. Like that's a lot to juggle. I remember, I forget who it was, but basically they're like, if you want to be, you can either be good at wrestling, you can have a social life, or you can be good academically. You can pick two of the three, but you can't have all three, essentially.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, so it was kind of a weird situation, and so my wife was an athlete also. She
Right. Which
ran
makes
track.
it even harder.
So it was kind of weird. It was almost like we were roommates for a little bit there because she would be at her practices, I'd be at my practices. I'd come home and she'd be gone for like 4 days because they had gone to like California to a meet or something. And so it was just kind of, I don't know, we got used to it then. And it was kind of almost like we got not remarried, but that we did when I got into medical school and we weren't all over the place, both of
Yeah.
us, type of a thing. So
I'm just imagining like all of a sudden, you're so used to that routine of her being gone that all of a sudden now she's like home more often. You're like, hey, oh, you're here. Like,
I mean, I'd be gone
what do
all
we?
I'd be gone from 6 in the morning till 6 at night because you'd be like morning workout or lift and then right into class and then at like 2:30 and then when practice got over do some recovery or rehab and then it'd be home at 6:30 a couple hours hanging out have dinner or something and then bed and do it all
Yeah.
over the next day type of a thing.
Yeah. What did she graduate with?
She was a teacher, so she taught um, elementary school for a few years, or she actually taught it for like 5 years, and
Mm.
then once I started making as a resident, I made some money, and we had a kid at the time, and half of her salary was going to childcare. So we're like, well, let's
Yeah.
just make it work with you staying home, and so she's stayed home since then. But yeah, teachers don't make enough money,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
especially in Oklahoma. There's definitely, I think Iowa, yeah, the teachers still don't make, but it's a better pay schedule up there because I've got most of my cousins went to northern Iowa, and our teachers up there, and I up in like Cedar Rapids area, and they do better than what my wife was doing down here in Oklahoma.
Yeah. And when you think about it, or I have a friend um who's a doctor, and I think she's just sort of finishing up her residency. Like when you see somebody and they're like, "Yeah, I'm in medical school and I'm a resident," like, "Oh man, they must be making money," And you're like, "Well, not really. Like the
Yeah,
money doesn't come for a while."
yeah.
you
So,
know?
you're paying during medical school, even if you're working in the hospital, and then residency, you're making money. But I mean, I think I made, and I was working 12-hour days, 5 to 7 days a week, and I was making like 45 to 48,000 a year at that time for those 5 years. Once you finish your first year, your intern year, you can start doing some moonlighting where you can make, you can make double your salary by moonlighting, depending on how much you want to do. But yeah, no, I had 5 years of residency, 1 year of fellowship before, so it was 11. So from start of medical school to when I started actually making doctor paychecks was 4, 9, 10 years.
Oh my God. Yeah. Right? I mean, that's something people don't realize, I guess. They're like, "Oh, he's a doctor." It's like, "Yeah, but there's
Yeah, it
still
takes
some time."
a long time. Yeah, it was 15 years from when I started undergrad to when I,
Wow.
yeah,
15.
yeah,
That's
5
commitment, man.
years of undergrad, 4 years of medical school, radiology is 5 years of residency, and then I did a 1 year fellowship. So 15 total years.
Wow. Was there ever a point where you were like, I know you said earlier you almost broke, but was there ever a point where you're like, man,
I
I
didn't
don't,
almost. I just was like, this sucks.
right, yeah. But I get, sorry, yeah. So there was a time where you said this sucks, but was there ever a time where you're like, man, like you're seeing other people do these other things, making money, and you're like, I need to do that. I have a family now. Like, I,
No, no. I
no,
mean, we were able. I was married in college where I had no money, and so making it work then. I didn't know any better.
yeah,
You just you learn lifestyles learned, and a lot of people live in excess. You see all these kids and stuff with iPhones and stuff now, and the like, not just an iPhone, but the newest iPhone
yeah,
and newest shoes, and you don't need that stuff. Those aren't necessities. Those are indulgences, and I didn't have that. And even now, with my income and stuff, it's a lot of it's getting put away for retirement or for my kids. I've got one kid with special needs, and it's just so she's set up for if something did happen to us, so she'd have stuff to live on and stuff like that. So a lot of people live above their means, or at the level of where everything coming in is going right back out. And I've never really been that way, even when I was making nothing, or in college where I was living a college kid. Uh, there was a couple times where I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to eat because I was, but it's just being smart with your money. I
yeah,
mean, honestly, I know different people are different situations, and the cost of living has gone up exponentially. And I know I'm fortunate to be in a situation now with my income where it doesn't really come up, but you see people that are complaining about how much things cost and all that, but then you see them with the newest phone and everything else. I'm like, well,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or with 1, 2, 3, like 9 pairs of shoes behind you, 10 pairs. Yeah, oh my. See? Hey, everyone has their thing, where they like to buy that one thing, and it looks like yours is Nikes.
yeah, I've got a few sneakers. It's honestly like I've got a buddy he actually played baseball at the University of Iowa, but he's a trauma orthopedic surgeon in Oklahoma City, and most of those shoes, if you can see, are OSU colors. And so he has hooked me up with quite a few pairs of OSU colored ones, and I do the same for him if University of Iowa colors come out, or he's from Chicago, so any type of bowls or colors, I just put it for them. So I just buy them for their normal price. I don't get on StockX or anything like that and pay extra. But yeah, I've accumulated a decent more from him. So
yeah.
But no, bourbon's kind of more my thing. I've got my bourbon collection is pretty extensive.
That was actually one of the questions I wanted to ask you. Was what is your favorite bourbon and or whiskey, specifically from my dad? So my dad is he likes that stuff, and old fashions are his thing. So if you do you have a couple favorites or some that stick out?
It's more my whole bar is kind of very rare, pretty rare bottles that are on my shelves, and so kind of what I'm feeling the night or how rough of a day I had. But I like E.H. Taylor barrel proof. I just acquired a couple Old Forester Presidential Choices, which are really, really good. I don't know. There's not many bottles that are out there. I don't have the entire antique collection from Buffalo Trace, like the William LaRue Weller and stuff. But I was lucky enough to win the entire Pappy collection.
I was gonna ask if you tried Pappy's. Wow, you had the entire.
But I've got them. I actually, it's kind of a crazy story. I bought a $100 raffle ticket for a national raffle, and I hit the grand prize, and the grand prize was the entire Pappy collection, all hand signed by the owner, by Van Winkle.
You're kidding me.
I don't put these on my shelf because they I don't want them to break, but let's see if I can pull one out.
Oh my gosh.
So here's the 15 year, and then you can see it's, I don't know if you can see that, but it's signed.
Yeah, yep.
They're all hand signed. So
how many are there?
There's 5 bottles.
5 bottles. Wow. So. And what it is again? It's the collection.
The one I don't have.
No, you said you have the Pappy's collection.
Yeah, so it's all of the Pappy Van Winkle bottles outside of the I don't have the rye, but all the bourbons I've got. So I've got the 10 year, the 12 year, the 15 year, the 20 year, and the 23 year. So apparently it's worth somewhere between 50 and 100,000.
Yeah.
Because they're signed. Because he doesn't sign things, apparently.
Yeah.
That's what Fred Minnick told me. So so I'm like, I can't drink those because you can buy it, the whole set, for not cheap, but a lot cheaper than that are unsigned. So it's not worth it to sign them or open them because they're signed. But yeah, I've got a nice collection. And then being friends with Fred, there's been a couple times where he's like, "Oh, you need to try this bottle. Let me call the owner of the distillery." And the owner of the distillery will send me a bottle of whatever he wants me to try, just because of he doesn't buy bourbon or whiskey anymore. They just essentially send him bottles because they want him to give a good review of their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes he'll have them send me a bottle too.
How'd you get into that?
When I was in medical school, a lot of the doctors drink wine. and I'll drink wine to if everyone else is drinking it, but I don't really appreciate wine. And so I got into cocktails, old fashions, Sazeracs, Manhattans, and all bourbon cocktails. And I kind of started putting more bourbon and less cocktail stuff into them. And
Yeah.
so and I started appreciating the flavors of different bourbons. And so now I'm just drinking it neat, sipping on something. I'll make cocktails every once in a while, especially if someone's coming over and wants cocktails. But mostly I'll just have like a glass a few times a week after work. If I'm by myself, not that often, but
Right.
the way my current way I'm drinking, I'll have probably, without buying another bottle, I would have enough bourbon in my house to last way past me being dead. I mean, I've probably got 400 bottles of really good, pretty good stuff, and then I have some really, really good stuff on the shelf. But yeah, I have people, coming over. We've done for the Oklahoma State, like the Cowboy Wrestling Club, they'll do auctions, and one of the auction items is bourbon night at my house uh, with like John Smith.
Yeah.
So they'll come over, they'll pay quite a bit of money to come over and drink bourbon at the house and hang out with the coach, and
And
very, yeah,
it's
sure.
your
Well,
house,
it's my bourbon, but but no. So it does very, very well at the auction.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they could hang out with Dr. Brandon Mason and drink his bourbon.
Yeah. I've got an amazing built-in bar in my walkout basement where we do it at, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. What is John up to nowadays?
John's doing side quests in life now. That's what he's doing.
Side quests. Okay.
Yeah. No, he's loving retirement. He's not bored. He's busy doing everything in the world. He just did a recent trip to Italy and stuff with his wife, and I had someone come over and cook a bunch of food a couple weekends ago, and had the current staff and their families and over to swim at the pool. And so I had like 20 adults and about 30-40 kids over at the house. But then John came over too, so I got to see him for a little bit and whatnot, between his hunting trips and fly fishing trips and everything else he's doing.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. Special thanks to my guest, Dr. Brandon Mason, for taking the time to sit down and chat with me. Cover art created and designed by Kristen Gill. Please feel free to rate, comment, and subscribe to this podcast. You can also check me out on Twitter, Instagram, and my Facebook page to hear more of my content. And don't forget to check out my website at letstalkwrestlingpodcast.my.canva.site. And as always, be sure to tune in to hear the next guest of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. Take care, and we will see you next time.